Collective. Hello, hello, my loves. Welcome to Vivid Vibration. My name is Christina. I hope that y'all are doing well. I'm feeling better. I still like this cough. Is still hanging around. It's probably gonna hang around for a minute, but it's fine. I'm feeling better. I'm making a dinner tonight. It's gonna be delicious. I'm not gonna lie. I make the best meatballs I've ever had. I love cooking. What can I say? I'm Cancer rising. So I'm making spaghetti and meatballs, and then we're gonna have salad and stuff. I'm excited. I enter the conversation. Sorry, I just got a text about that. Okay, enter the conversation. Yeah, cough drop. Because I feel better, but like I don't sound better. Okay. The universe is in an ongoing conversation between source and matter. You are a part of that conversation, being an extension of source and an embodiment of matter. The symbols that show up in your life on a daily basis are no coincidence. They communicate with you without fail, but require your attention in order to reveal their meaning and messages. Now is the time to pay attention. It's not your imagination. The lyrics on the radio really are communing with you. As the wild animal that crosses your path, the unexpected visitor, the overheard conversation in an elevator, even the way the air smells after a summer rainfall, reminding you of a time long ago. The entirety of the universe conspires to delight you in conversation and engagement. You will find the answers there. Slow down, pay attention, look, listen, and enter the conversation. It's true though, like anytime we have conversations with people, they can they can say something that really just kind of like if I like just turns the like never really thought of it in that way. You know what I mean? So it's wonderful to constantly be engaged in conversations with people, especially people who have different perspectives and different, life experiences. Like I really don't like, I don't like groups of people because they're hive-minded, they're sheep-like, like it's like they all want to fight on behalf of one mentality instead of having like a community of people who have different mentalities and different life experiences and different perspectives, and and then those people are open and engaging. Whereas if you go into a group of people who are like, this is how it has to be, and this is how we think, and this is how you should think, then they're very aggressive, they're very condescending, they're very narrow-minded. They're my least favorite people on the planet. Okay. So enter a conversation. But practice discernment with who you enter conversations with, because you don't want to enter conversations with people who are just like dealing with a regime of arrogance. 10 of Wands. Page of Pentacles, King of Pentacles. Ooh, love. God, she's gorgeous. I love the fact that there's the King of Pentacles and the Queen of Pentacles. Okay, sorry. I haven't seen the King of Pentacles. I don't think. I don't know. Maybe I have. I just don't remember. King of Cups. He's coming on a little boat. He's smiling. The Five of Cups. And the Hierophant. Ooh. Beautiful. She's got the keys. I love these cards. They're fantastic. Okay. Let's read what the book says. And then we'll see what Spirit says. Okay, Ten of Wands. The Ten of Wands reaches an excess. We are inside the fire suit. What happens when we lose control of this element? The situation can get out of hand, just as it does in this card. You wanted to do too much, and now you can't keep anything in check anymore. It is the card of overwhelm, which is also called burnout. Something has gotten out of control. I feel like, well, obviously these are general reads, but I'm going to resonate with them. Like I'm the channeler. But as a fire sign who's primarily fire and water, I'm all fire and water. The only earth that I have on my chart is my Mercury, and it's a Virgo. So I'm very passionate, very emotionally conscious and aware. And I'm also very hard to control. But I think because I'm very hard to control, it's almost like I attract people to me who want nothing more than to control me. And the harder they try, the worse it gets for them. This card can refer back to the Emperor and his ability to set boundaries. The lesson to be learned. The lesson to be learned is this: sometimes saying no allows us to gain something even more, even if we initially think we will lose it. Holding on to the unnecessary weighs us down. Letting go means making room for what is to come. It is a good time to take stock and stop giving our personal energy away. And I do. I feel like don't try to control things. The more you try to control things, the worse it gets. And there are people out there who really do seek to control everything. I am, yeah. Well, so the other day we were making breakfast. I was making biscuits. Nene was like, "Do you need to put on the timer?" I was like, "No, I don't use timers. I just stay and watch." And she was like, "You are such a type B person," which is great because she's type A and I'm type B. So we work really well together because we balance each other out. But, you know, there's a general understanding, a general respect, like an awareness that one person works one way, one person works another way. You find balance in that. You find ways to work together, but she's not going to try and control me, and I'm not going to try and change her. You know what I mean? That would be absurd. And I just feel like there being like somebody in your life who maybe you have that experience with, right? Like you're one way and they're another way. And there's been a point of conflict because they want you to be the way that they want you to be. And it's like the more they want you to be that way, the more your fire burns. The more they try to wrap something around you, the bigger your fire gets because you got to burn out of those limitations. And again, you can be on either side of that story. You're the one who's burning or you're the one who's wrapping. But either way, I feel like there's just this, it's not working. In the middle of the suit, Five of Cups, sorry. In the middle of the suit, we encounter the Five of Cups, unsurprisingly central in its emotional significance. On the card, a figure observes 3 overturned cups, the contents spilled on the ground, unsalvageable. Behind her, there are 2 cups still standing, but for now she does not see them. All her attention is consumed by the loss. This card shows us that it is not possible to escape trauma, and that the only way to overcome it is to get past it. The figure stops near a river. Everything flows, but now is the time to stand in sadness for what we have lost. The time will come when we lift our gaze, but that time is not now. Running away from uncomfortable emotions is by no means a solution, but you can pause here for a moment in the twilight. Yeah, I do. I feel like there's somebody here who wanted to control, who thought they were going to outsmart, who thought they were going to outwit, who thought they were going to outpower, who thought they were going to outmagic, who thought they were going to out anything, and found that they were neither able to contain the fire or control the emotion. But, if you come with an intention to control other people, it tends to backfire. It doesn't matter who you're dealing with, you know? I mean, the wild ones are wild, you know? I don't know. I think of Ben. Ben is the guy who was a transient and I took care of right before when my life was falling apart. He got caught out in the alley. They called him a faggot. And he was like, oh, you know, does that upset you? So it did upset them, and they caught him in the alley, and they kicked his face and broke his jaw. Anyways, he was very popular amongst the community, because I've always kept a community with artists and musicians. They're my jam. And he was the one who taught me, you know, like how to panhandle, how to do all of these things, and he's wild, and people would try and get him to settle. People would try and get him to slow down, or, you know, well, I know in the city, you know, or in the town that we lived in, you know, they would offer him a job, or they would be like, you know, you can stay here, and they would try to like offer him a sense of stability so that he could. It was not in his nature. It was not in his spirit. It was not who he was, you know. But the more people tried to get him to do what they wanted him to do, the less control they had. I think the same thing, in, you know, like in relationships. You know, when you're dealing in like if there's a toxic relationship that you're dealing with, and usually there's one person who's really, really clingy, and another person who's like, oh my God, like I can't breathe, like, God, get away from me. You know what I mean? Like, you are too clingy. That is too much. I need you to calm the fuck down, you know? And the more that person tries to love them and show their adoration and express everything, the more that other person is like, listen, if that's the only thing you have to talk about, then we don't have anything to talk about. You know, I'm going to need you to calm down. But it's that speaking different languages, having different needs, having different, you know, like, I just feel like this massive amount, like this massive point of conflict. There's this incompatibility, right? And so, you know, you can bring in nurture versus nature, and how people were raised, and what, you know, like what socioeconomics, geography, you know, like all of the different things that affect who people are, you know, because I think it's funny, you know, like especially in the astrology world, when people are like, oh, well, you're going to be with, because your chart says your seventh house that this, and this, that means this, and this. And it's like, but do you know how many different people I've encountered who have those signs, and how many of them I had nothing in common with, and how many of them I connected with? And really and truly, that's not the end all be all tell all of what your connections will entail, and how those connections are insured. But yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to give examples, because I feel like, you know, it's going to resonate in different ways. But the crux of the story is incompatibility. Like one person wanting to really control, another person not being controllable. And the more they try to hold on, the more they try to, you know, like grasp at any straw that they can, you know, whether it's a positive or a negative. Because again, you know, like if we're going to go back to the idea of the relationship, you know, of the one person who's just like very emotional and very, you know, expressive and all of those things, you know, like, okay, great. But like, okay, so there's this reel of Zendaya. Just popped into my mind. And she's like, you know, some people, they don't like to hear that they're pretty. It makes them uncomfortable. It makes them, you know, she's like, but me, I need to hear it all the time, you know. And then they show all of these clips of Tom Holland just like, loving her and appreciating her beauty. And the second, you know, like she looks in his direction, he's already there, like ready to like lock eyes with her, and they're so precious. I love them. They're like hashtag goals for couples. But but again, it's that like, what do you need and why do you need it? And is the person that you're working with, or the person that you're living with, or the person that you're engaged in a relationship with, are they aware of your needs, or are they only aware of themselves and what they want and how they want to express it? And like the more they feel rejected, the more they try to cling. And it's like the more they try to cling, the opposite of what they want to happen happens. That's what this energy feels like here. That's what this feels like. Like a need to control, an inability to control, a sadness because whatever that attempted control was, like you lost. You lost a friend, you lost a lover, you lost an opportunity. I don't know how that will play out for you individually, but there is a loss that has occurred. There's a disappointment that is being experienced. And then we have, oh, that's not the Queen of Pentacles, it's the Page of Pentacles. I still love it. It's so beautiful. I just love the way her dress is the night sky. Okay. Pentacles. Page of Pentacles. The Page of Pentacles is the most studious and hardworking of all 4 pages. She is the one studying quietly and with dedication as a true apprentice. She's not following a master, a shamaness, or nature herself is guiding her. Often it is an apprenticeship connected to the manifest world, ranging from the forest to the field. Someone is at the beginning of the path, and she wants to explore it slowly and purposefully, observing who inhabits it, who has traced it, and what clues are scattered there. The Page of Pentacles, in fact, could also be related to investigating, as understood by its etymology, vestigium, meaning footprint or trace. We are in the presence of one who is about to search diligently for the traces of new knowledge. Yeah. Well, in terms of education, like don't limit yourself, like you can understand one thing. And I don't know. I mean, like I am type B. I am a natural feeler. I am a jack of all trades. I don't like to dedicate myself to one specific thing. So grateful for the people out there who do, because those are people that I get to learn from. You know what I mean? I like I don't envy them. I don't think that what they're doing is wrong, and like the opposite. I'm grateful for them, and I'm always happy to have a new lesson to learn and a new teacher to demonstrate that to me. And I feel like for whoever lost, that like the person who was too much to control, I feel like they're coming through in this energy because I almost feel like there was like, this is the path you need to take. This is the relationship you need to be in. This is the da 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 da. And that person being like, absolutely not, for all the reasons, and now there's like this sense of freedom to explore with all the different people, with all of the different experts, with all the different mentalities, because there's still so much to learn. There's always so much to learn. Life is a never ending process. I think my favorite concept, in terms of an infinite, because people are like, well, if you're going to go to heaven and you're going to live there eternally, right? That's an infinite amount of time. It always seemed a little treacherous to me because, like, wouldn't you get bored? But if you think about the idea of an infinite universe to explore, an infinite opportunity to pursue, like the infiniteness of it all, then it doesn't feel so boring. It doesn't feel so like prison sentencey, you know what I mean? But like, I don't believe in the concept of heaven and hell in terms of the Christian world. So, but at one point in time I did, and that was something that I struggled with. The King of Pentacles expresses great wealth as well as great generosity, which often go together. He is someone who notices your work and promotes you, someone who supports and helps you because he can, someone who creates happy opportunities for others. The King of Pentacles accumulated wealth without losing sight of humanity. That's rare. And so he became a master of giving. This is a powerful lesson. How much wealth is there in a gift? If you give without expecting something in return, you will surely receive. The world has its equilibrium, and the King of Pentacles, who has experienced true nourishment, knows how to give back what life has given him. He embodies the one who truly includes, welcomes, and integrates because he knows that in sharing, he increases his wealth, which increases his joy. God, that's true. That's true for knowledge. That's true for money. That's true for food or any of it, you know? It's like when you give, you receive, you know, and what you give, you don't always receive the same thing in return, but you receive something different, right? You like there is an exchange. And I feel like there is almost this sense of exchange. And in this, I almost feel like the exchange is the curiosity, a funding of curiosity. Well, I don't know. I think of my dad. You know, growing up, we always, my dad does not sit still, one. He's always traveling. He's always going. I mean, like, even still, like, he teaches. And then on his vacations, he does these like tour things, and he's like the visiting professor. So like they're up in Norway, and he's doing like Viking lectures, and you know, like, then he's down in South America doing lectures on the like the Aztecs and the Mayans, and then he's in Alaska. You know, I mean, fucking, he's all over the world always. But you know, growing up with him was really fun because we were always learning things. I was always learning something, and you know, he'd always get me something, you know, like from the Discovery store. Or so, you know, like what, Geology Rocks, or I don't know, something educational. It's always something educational. Or, you know, we were in a bookstore all the time, so books. But he took joy in curiosity. And I didn't appreciate it the way that I should have at that point in time in my life, but I was dealing with an abusive mother, and, you know, like all of the other things that I had been dealing with in my childhood, you know, and he bore the brunt of that in a lot of ways. And so I try to express my gratitude to him as much as I can now, you know, to compensate for that. But that being said, he always, like, if I was excited to learn, he was excited to provide me with the opportunity to do that. And that's what this energy feels like to me. You know, like, instead of, I feel like if you were dealing with a person, with a group of people who wanted to control your means of understanding, who wanted to control your means of education, who wanted to control your means of love, who wanted to control your point of focus, right? Even if it's a love relationship. And it's like, you want to go, you want to explore, you want to learn, and all this person wants to do is sit around and talk about how beautiful they think you are and how much they love you. And you're like, thank you. But, you know, like, you know, like this, and, right? We were talking about manifesting, and you know, like the restrictiveness of, well, if somebody says like this, you know, like, this is what I want, and they're like, well, and so you say, well, this is what I want, and, you know, how you kind of open the door to that, but how even that can be very limiting to you because you've already set this like expectation in your mind of what someone will be. And if they're this and but not that, then, you know, like, then what do you do? Because then you're wrestling with all these emotions, and I don't know, it's real. But I feel like for a lot of people, you're exiting that disappointment, that, you know, like, I thought that that's what I wanted, but really it was too controlling, it was too emotionally depleting, it was too, you know, like, it was too clingy, it was too whatever. And but now you're moving in a direction that I think is just really like, it takes joy in the discovery. It takes joy in discovery of you. It takes joy in the discovery of life with you. The King of Cups. Okay, the throne of the King of Cups is floating above the water. He is in the sea without a landing place. On the one hand, this indicates a great ability to stay afloat since he knows his emotions and therefore knows how to handle them. This card can refer to someone practicing as a psychologist or therapist, but on the other hand, it suggests a certain instability. How well does he really know his emotions, and how much is he able to really get in touch with what he feels? I see the King of Cups as someone very willing to listen to other people's stories, but not very in touch with what he feels himself. There are people, especially if they work in caregiving, who are at a loss when they have to take care of their own selves. Remember, wanting to master all emotions doesn't always allow us to really get in touch with them. We have to take the risk of swimming in the sea and in its depth to really get to know the tides. That feels like the exchange. An exchange of because there are very different energies, right? Like the king of emotions, the I enjoy that idea of just staying afloat, but like when you're staying afloat, you're not actually enveloped in any of the emotions. And I think that oftentimes it's difficult for people to tap into the emotions of people who are very emotionally reserved, very on the surface level of their emotions. They don't like to engage in their emotions. They don't feel comfortable with that. But I feel like there is this sense of a joy that is experienced that almost in exchange opens up an emotion. Well, I don't know, because I don't know. There's just I just like very much this father figure energy. It could be that you're dealing with somebody who's older than you. It doesn't have to be, but it does feel like it's somebody who there's this like they see joy in it. Well, I don't know, and I know I've dated men with children before. When I was living in Portland, I lived with a couple of guys, and one of them had a daughter. And I just adored her. And it was so healing to me because I was away from my children and being with them really allowed me to kind of like engage in that sense of family when I was mourning the loss of mine. But, watching him with his daughter, she was very, like she brought him joy. She, like everything that she brought him, everything that she offered him, she didn't have any clue what she was doing, but he knew the emotional fulfillment that he experienced and watching her grow and develop. And I almost feel like there is this sense of the Page of Pentacles doesn't necessarily have the things to offer this king, but what she offers this king is this sense of opening the door to feeling emotions, feeling a different thing, feeling something different. And I don't know. For men out there who have to have a daughter in order to know what it is to really respect women, I have no respect for those men. Truly, I don't. If you have to have a daughter before you can recognize that women have value, you don't get an award for that. But those are the types of men I'm talking about. I'm talking about, there are lots of men out there who respect women, who know how to engage with women, who have relationships and friendships with women, but their relationships and their friendships with their women aren't any more emotionally in depth than their relationships with the men. They're functional relationships, they're friendly relationships, but they're not loving relationships. And that's what this feels like. This feels like somebody who functions well in the community, who has almost this network, who has this financial standing, who has a plethora of people, if you will, but nobody who they're emotionally rooted in, nobody who they're emotionally grounded in. I feel like this person is, it like doesn't root themselves emotionally in people, but maybe they support or fund or whatever. But I feel like this crossing of paths, because I almost feel like this person left this person or these people, however it plays out. And there's, I know Pentacles is earth, but there's something just very like fiery about this to me, because it's that the desire, right? That need to know, that need to learn, that curiosity. There's something about when these two people cross paths that this person now suddenly feels like diving deep into the emotion, because somehow this person strikes a chord in this person's heart. Okay. Loving, loving, loving. Okay. The Hierophant. The Hierophant represents the unveiling of the sacred in the everyday, which can take place through a message, a guide, or a key to reading the present. She is also connected to tradition and faith, especially in times of crisis, when we feel we have lost faith in what we believe. It takes careful eyes to observe what is invisible. Often the Hierophant's messages are hidden, and we need another perspective to perceive them. The plant is the passion flower, symbolically connected to the passion of Christ and thus to the rediscovery of hope in a time of extreme difficulty. Here, the idea of faith has no religious connotation, but rather recalls the value system to which each person relates. The passion flower opens the new morning, and opens in the morning, and its bloom often lasts for only one day, a reminder of fleeting beauty. With the Hierophant, we enter full morning. Yeah, I don't know. I do. I feel like there's this awakening. I feel like there's this awakening that occurs when the curiosity of one incites passion in another. And the exchange, well, I feel like isn't necessarily, well, I don't know. For some people, it might be a financial exchange. It might be like a financial exchange. But it's not a financial exchange of ownership. It's a financial exchange of this is what I have and that is what you have. And what I exchange is in exchange for what you are giving me. What I am able to provide for you is not what you are able to provide for yourself, and what you are able to provide for me is what I am not able to provide for myself. And an equal exchange is not always like a correlated exchange, right? It's not always value for value in terms of financial. So, obviously take this how it resonates for you. Do with it what you will, because everyone's going to be in a different situation. They're going to be exchanging something different. Okay. Yeah. Well, again, the Tower, the end of whatever it was that was happening, whatever types of relationships you were engaged in, whether it was a romantic relationship, friendships, groups of people, whatever, an end at like you're too clingy, you're not giving me enough, you're suffocating me, like I can't breathe, I need to go, like an understanding of why you need to go. I think a rush of freedom and a turning around of opportunity, because in a way I feel like there was almost like the exchange that's taking place in this next relationship oddly mirrors the exchange that was taking place in the previous relationship. But I think that in the previous relationship, there was more like one person had more than the other person had, in terms of what was being exchanged. Maybe not in their entirety, but like, say you're somebody, okay, well, because I'm a Venus Leo, like, I love, and I love to love, and I love to be loved, and I will adore you, and yes, please adore me, you know what I mean, like, all those things. But if I'm with somebody who literally doesn't stimulate me mentally or spiritually or any of those things, and they just only with the emotion, I'm like, oh, no. and and I kind of get the feeling that, like, or like, or say it's not emotion, say it's like, well, I have all the money and I provide you with the opportunity to do these things, and because I provide you with this opportunity, then you owe this to me. And then it's like, what, so you think you own me now? You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, you can fuck all the way off. Like, so, like, there are people who are like trying to like exchange these things with you, but they're not compatible with you, right? It's like, to go back to that idea of, there are so many different facets of connection that we're going to like experience, and somebody's zodiac signs don't mean that they are like the one for you, like, that's ridiculous, right? You shouldn't base your relationship approach, status, or anything else on zodiac signs. If you do, please seek help. Can you use it as like a boost of information or like a fun little part of it? Sure, totally. Have fun. Go nuts. Should that be your means of decision making? No. If it is, I question your intelligence. But I think once you figure out, like, why whatever it was that wasn't working, like, when you set off with an understanding that I think almost is like that, and this, right? For people who are like, well, I'm going to manifest this, 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 and this. And it's like, well, you manifested it, but you were so specific with what you were trying to manifest that you manifested yourself something that ended up being very, very different than what you had anticipated, because you didn't allow the universe to like take up some space in those manifestations. And I think that part of that, like, other people trying to control you, freed you from your desire to control. Even if that was just a desire to control. Well, like, I want these things. Well, okay, what, you want somebody who's successful and intelligent and, like, kind and, like, all those things. But, like, what does that look like to you in your life? Because what that looks like to you in your life, I was watching this interview of Melania and Donald, and when he was like 59 and she was 23, and he had just purchased her from Russia, and like, they were gonna have a kid, and he already had 4 kids and all this other stuff. But now you see them and she hates him, you know what I mean? But, like, she probably got what she wanted. She got what her family wanted, like, she's set up, but, like, she's miserable. And I feel like a lot of us have looked around ourselves and thought, well, we're set up, but we're miserable, you know? And whether that's recently for you or not recently, because I could say, like, I've been on a 5 long journey of recovering from a life that I was set up in, but I was miserable with. And I don't mean set up like as in like somebody set me up. I mean, like, I would have been fine. I could have stayed married. I could have stayed in the church. I could have, like, done all of these things, and everything would have been just fine. And if you don't think that hasn't been used against me 1,000,010 times, you are sorely mistaken. And yet I feel like I have a calling. I feel like I have a destiny. And I know that if I pursue that, then, like, ultimately I will be able to bring things full circle and hopefully heal the damage that was done along the way. But, like, who knows the damage that would have taken place if I would have just stayed being set up, because I would have resented. I would have been angry. I would have been neglectful. I would have caused damage that, you know, would have turned into my mother, which was like the most horrifying thing on the face of the planet. And so I had to leave. I had to change things. And I feel like for a lot of you, like this, like I have to leave. I have to change things. I can't do what you're asking me to do. And I think this person feels rejected. They're like, well, I loved you, or I offered you these things, or I did this and I did that. And there's a guilt or a shame that you might experience with that, because how can you take something so beautiful like love and just turn your back on it? And it's like, your idea of love and my idea of love are very different, right? Your idea of love is ownership, or your idea of love is like emotional clinginess, or your idea of love is, like whatever. And it's like, if that's not my idea of love, if I'm not compatible with that, that's not going to work. And you can make me feel bad for it, or you can honor and acknowledge and respect that, like, I'm doing everyone a favor by just letting things end. Maybe you should allow for the same thing to happen, and I think that there are people who are finally allowing for the end to come. They're just feeling the sting from it. But I don't really feel like you have a lot of time to think about it or concern yourself with it, because I feel like when you finally free yourself from whatever it is that's been like, I don't know, like connected to you or corded to you, I think that you're able to really step out into these new beginnings. And I think that's, again, when you encounter this person who is like, I think that you bring such joy to them, and what you offer them with your passion and your light and your life, like they can't help but want to, like, I want you to experience this. I want you to have, like the opportunity to explore and understand. And because when you do that, not only do I explore and understand in ways that I didn't explore and understand, but I also experience joy. I also experience an emotional depth. And a lot of times people want that emotional connection, but they don't want it because 9 times out of 10, it comes in this clingy, needy, codependent type of love. And those of us who don't practice codependence, who are extremely hyper independent, that is like the most off putting thing in the world to us. And so, like, we don't want to be bothered. We don't want love if it's going to require codependency. And I feel like this person trusts that, like, not only will you ignite love in them, but you will fan the flame of that passion, because you won't suffocate it out of them by clinging to them, And we've all experienced that, like I'm not alone in that. There's a lot going on right now, in terms of waking up and awareness and all of that stuff. Like tides turning, things changing, like relationships ending, things coming into, or healing, like however it plays out for you as an individual, because it'll play out differently for all of us, because we are all individuals and we have our own stories and our own experiences. And these are general reads, and they're meant to, like offer us like a perspective on that, They're not meant to determine or dictate the future. Okay. The Hermit, the Five of Wands, the Two of Cups, the Seven of Cups. I really do feel like there are some people who really just, like, they want you to be sad. They want you to mourn them. They want you to feel like, oh, I like being without this person is just so, and I feel like one person feels that way and another person doesn't. And for the person who doesn't feel that way, or for the person who does feel that way, I really recommend finding that love within yourself, because you can only love another person as much as you love yourself. And if you have a love that suffocates other people, it's because you have such a lack of self-love that the only way you're able to fill that cup is to pour your love on other people, hoping that they will pour all of that back into you. It's not how it works. It's not how it works. And I think that that's something that you need to really sit with and you need to work through. It's not a character flaw to be that way. If you don't stay that way, it doesn't make you a bad person, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But it does make you an unhealthy person. It does mean that you attract unhealthy relationships. Oftentimes there's like a savior complex that's involved with that then creates the idea of ownership, that then leads to jealousy and control and manipulation and very, very unhealthy patterns. And if you're dealing with those patterns and you're still in the thick of it, sit with it, honor it, name it, tame it, find a way to heal it within yourself. Find a way to start engaging with life that brings passion to you, that brings a sense of self-respect and self-love to you, so that you're not seeking that from other people. So you're not suffocating people who you're trying to be in a relationship with. You know? For the other person, I feel like intuitively they knew that whatever they were dealing with, whatever they were working with, it wasn't something that they could work with. And I think that they are rising up into their passion, into that vivacious energy. And I think that there's somebody who's making a decision that, like this person, I feel like this person matches me where I'm at in the healthy ways and balances me in the ways that like I would seek balance in relationship with another person. We're calling in the people who are meant to be with us, and I'm here for it. Okay. Collective. Can it be like a rekindled relationship? I mean, definitely. If it's a relationship that you've had these issues in the past, and now, you know, like maybe you took a break from each other for a while, and you know, like you went back, and you know, now like things are different. I mean, totally, that can be a thing. I don't feel like this message is a rekindling message. Again, it's a general message. Take what resonates for you, how it resonates for you, and leave what doesn't. the the Eight of Cups, the Nine of Swords, this like I feel trapped, I feel emotionally depleted, I feel under attack, I feel all these negative feelings. I just think that whatever it was that you were dealing with, you were feeling a lot of really negative emotions around it. The High Priestess, I think that you're standing in your power, you're standing in your understanding, you're standing in your knowledge. You know, like you've worked really hard to embody the best versions of yourself. I think for a lot of us, I was just having a conversation the other day, and it was like this, there was almost this mentality of, well, I'm not allowed to feel these negative emotions if I'm in a healthy place. And I was like, that is the opposite of true. You know, like not feeling your feels, not honoring your processes, you know, like that is the most unhealthy thing you can do. You know, like repressing those things is not healthy. But on the opposite spectrum of that, existing solely in those things is no more healthy than repressing them. You know, like there has to be a balance of it all. But I feel like for whatever reason, you've caught the attention of somebody who feels like the reciprocity that you are able to engage with them is something that like an opportunity that they don't want to miss this opportunity. I think for most of us, it's somebody who we have not dealt with previously. For most of us, it's someone who we may not even know, you know. For others, it could be that it's somebody who you have engaged with, but not in a way that was like, maybe you were in a really toxic relationship and then this person was around and they saw you and they liked you and they appreciated you, but they also saw the toxicity that you were engaged in, and they were like, like that in and of itself is a red flag enough for me to not engage. And I think almost this, like, for some, like this, like, exile of the toxicity, this, like, I'm not engaged in this, I don't want anything to do with this, I feel like I got suffocated beneath this, outside of my will, without my consent, you know what I mean? And I'm liberated and I'm free, like, and maybe that's what, like, this person was like, man, I would have fucked with them, but they had all of that negativity around them. And then when they see that you're liberated from that because you fought tooth and nail to free yourself from it, they're like, I knew that person had it in them. I knew they had that vivacious spirit. I knew they had that passion. I knew that they weren't going to tolerate that level of toxicity. Or maybe they didn't know, but they really, really hoped. And when you freed yourself from it, they felt encouraged by that. They felt revived by that. They felt motivated by that. I don't know. I don't know how it'll play out for you guys individually. Or like, if you know this person, or if you don't know this person, or if you're friends with this person, or you've never met them before in your life, like, I would love to know. Please do share, because this is a happy read and I'm so glad. I did some things, and I do think that I am going to tread carefully back into the world of doing signs again. I'm going to do it through the membership. I'm not going to do them as regularly as I did them before, but I think I'm just going to do, like 1 week for fire, 1 week air, 1 week water, 1 week earth, not in that given order, just like in general. And do that for like members only. Just to try and expand my financial portfolio a little bit. Not really because I'm like super stoked on it. But I do think it'll be fun because I do live in a world where people discuss it all the time, and I'm not opposed to it. I just don't think it's the end all be all. You know what I mean? And I think that it forms an unhealthy addiction for a lot of people that dictates and dominates their life in a way that it's like, it's not healthy. The lion presages a sudden shock from bad news. Well, I don't know. Maybe a lot of y'all are getting ready to enter into this breakup. Maybe this is like a story that's going to play out, but first we have to go through the bad. Maybe we've already gone through the bad for a lot of us, but for whoever that's for, I just think that take comfort, have faith, and trust that when you let go of what is not healthy, when you let go of what is not right, when you let go of trying to control things that are not in your control, you open yourself up to blessings. Garden the heart. It is not enough to guard and cultivate our thoughts. We must also pay attention to the heart's garden. Are you allowing your heart to focus on what expands your possibilities? Are you weeding out repetitive thoughts that make you feel small or ashamed? Our emotions tell us with great simplicity and power where we are in relation to where we want to be. Make friends with all of the feelings as they show up. Allow them their natural cycle of bloom and fade. Then cultivate the ones you actually want to thrive. Plant your hopes, water your enthusiasm, grow your love with wild abandon. Now is the time to make room for all emotions to come and go as they show up, rejecting none. Then, in your surrender, nurture the ones that reflect your great worthiness. This is the path to true love with self, with other, and with life. Yeah. Clean out your garden. Weed out the unhealthy relationships. Weed out the toxic habits. Weed out all of the things that you really do not want. And open yourself up to what will be. I think that you will find very quickly things turn around for you. And yeah, it does. It does depend on how deep on that journey are you. How much have you been dealing with your toxic behaviors? Are you just now starting to awaken to the fact that you embody those? Because if you're just now starting to awaken, the duration of this read is going to play out in a much longer time frame than those of us who have been steady working and busting our ass to be who we need to be, where we need to be, all the things we need to embody our truest selves so that we can have that change. These are timeless reads for a reason. And everybody's going to be entering the journey at a different level. And where they are entering is going to determine how long it takes for them to attain whatever it is that they're trying to attain. Do things happen instantaneously overnight out of nowhere? Sometimes yes. Do I encourage people to hold their breath and hope for that to happen? Never. Never. Because if you're not willing to put in the effort that it will take, even if something does just fall into your lap, it won't stay because you're not willing to put in the work that it requires for it to flourish. It'll fall into your lap and it'll die because you're ill prepared and ill suited for taking care of what is meant to be taken care of. So practice discernment, practice awareness, practice discipline, practice passion, practice faith. You got to do all of it, right? All right, y'all. Love you. Hope this resonates. It was way more fun than some of the other reads have been lately, and I'm here for that. Thank you again for spending some time with me. If this does resonate with you, please do give me a like, share, and subscribe, and I will see y'all again soon. Bye.